Good evening, everyone. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I wanted to say hello to everyone with us on Zoom and hello to everyone with us on Facebook Live. It's so exciting that we have such a large crowd here with us tonight. My name is Allie Rickey, and I am the facilitator for the James Patterson Literacy Challenge at the University of Florida Literacy Institute. And I just have a few logistics before we get started. If you're watching with us on Zoom, you'll notice that there's a couple of features. So we have our closed captioning that we're so excited that we have live captioning this evening, and you can see it down below with the CC icon, so you can turn it on or off down there. In Zoom, you'll also see a chat box, so please feel free to say hello, tell us where you're from, share resources and ideas, and just chat with each other throughout the webinar. Also on Zoom, if you have any questions, please put those in the Q&A box. Our team's monitoring it and collecting the questions so we can address as many as we can at the end of the session. Now, if you're joining us on Facebook Live, don't worry. We have a team over there too that's taking all the questions, and from the comment section, you can put it there, and our team is collecting them as well. Because there's so many people with us tonight, we might not be able to get to everyone's questions, but we're going to be keeping track of them. And after the webinar, we're going to keep the conversations going on our UFLI Facebook page and also our UFLI Virtual Teaching Support Hub. In addition, the recording to this webinar will be posted on our UFLI website. So if you want to go back and refer to it, you can go over there to find it. We'll be displaying some QR codes throughout the presentation. So if you want to have your smartphone next to you, it'll be handy to capture some of those in the moment. We're also offering a verification for your attendance tonight. So at the end of the webinar, we're going to share a link to a follow-up survey, and everyone who completes the survey, whether you watched it live or after, or if you're watching it on Zoom or Facebook, you're going to get a verification of your attendance emailed to you after the entire webinar series is completed. So I think that's all of the housekeeping we have today. And again, thank you so much for joining us this evening. And I'm so excited. Now I would like to introduce our wonderful director, Dr. Holly Lane, to start today's webinar. Take it away, Dr. Lane.
Thank you so much, Allie, and welcome everyone. We're very pleased to see you here tonight. As Allie mentioned, my name is Holly Lane, and I am the director of the University of Florida Literacy Institute, also known as UFLI. UFLI is a part of the College of Education and at the University of Florida, and we're really excited to bring you this series of webinars focused on virtual teaching. During this webinar, I'll be telling you a little bit about some of the others, but tonight our focus is on you're getting a guided tour of the UFLI Virtual Teaching Hub. So if you're not familiar with UFLI, I'm going to give you a very brief overview. If you were here on our previous webinar, you heard some of this, but it will be quick for those who are new to us this webinar. So UFLI is focused on the development of readers and on teachers. Where those two things intersect is where UFLI lives, for lack of a better term. And just as a reminder, as we're going through this and as you start using the Virtual Teaching Hub resources, we would love it if you let us know through just putting on hashtag UFLI when you are sharing things on social media. We love seeing what you all are doing. We are excited to be going on this journey with you, and we love seeing where folks have been using our resources. So we are starting tonight the second of our series in this series on teaching reading online. And it's important to realize that we created this virtual teaching resource hub just a couple of months ago at the beginning of when schools were shutting down, and after we realized it wasn't going to be just 2 or 3 weeks for spring break and then we would all get back to school in April. It turned out we were mostly shut down for the rest of the school year, and it looks like a lot of schools are going to stay shut down as this year starts, and teachers were thrust into this role of teaching reading online and really not having the resources to do that well. So we wanted to do what we could to help address that problem. So we went hard at work creating resources that we knew could be both used in a virtual environment, but also could be transported back to the classroom and used there. We've been doing work on reading instruction and intervention for more than 20 years now. And we have quite a few methods and materials that we've found to be very effective. Now, I will say, we have not done research on how effective these things are when applied in a virtual classroom. So that's an important disclaimer, but everything that we are sharing with you has research behind it for use in a regular classroom setting. So we encourage you to try it out, give us feedback on things that are working effectively and things that you see that might be improved. We love getting feedback. So just to orient us a little bit to where we are in reading, we want to be clear what we consider to be effective reading instruction or effective instruction in general. And that is instruction that's explicit or clear and direct with checks for understanding, active participation, and lots of success, that students are set up for success. And effective instruction is also systematic, which means it's put into a logical sequence, it's building on what kids already know, and it proceeds in steps that kids can manage. We also think about effective instruction as including effective corrective feedback, helping sure that kids know when they're on track and when they need to shift their performance, and behavior-specific praise. So we also are developing these materials with the simple view of reading in mind. So this means, if you aren't familiar with the simple view, very briefly, it's represented by a mathematical formula. So go figure, we talk about reading in terms of mathematics. What this mathematical formula represents is that decoding and linguistic comprehension are both necessary for reading comprehension. Okay, so let's think about that for just a moment. What the mathematical formula says to us is that reading comprehension is the product of decoding and linguistic comprehension. So if you think about this mathematically, if either decoding or linguistic comprehension were missing, if they were zero, then reading comprehension would also be zero. It couldn't exist. You've got to have both of those areas. If either one of those is weak, reading comprehension will also be weak. If both areas are weak, reading comprehension will be even weaker. So this view of reading is how we organized all of the materials, and most of the materials that we have put on the Virtual Teaching Hub are related to the decoding side of this formula. That does not mean that decoding is more important than linguistic comprehension. As the formula indicates, they're equally important, but the materials that we have presented are primarily related to decoding. Some of them are, in fact, related to linguistic comprehension, and we will show you those as well. So our goal for tonight is to help you envision how you can take what you do in the classroom to a virtual environment. And when I say help you imagine that, I think that part is really important, because before I saw some of the methods that I'm going to show you in action, it was really hard for me to even figure how it was possible to teach reading online effectively. And once I actually saw it, then I got it. And that's what we're hoping for you tonight, is to be able to see. We're going to show you some video clips and show you some of the actual materials. And we want you to be able to say, oh, okay. And maybe relieve a little bit of the stress that you're feeling about the upcoming school year. That's really our main goal. So just to recap a little bit from our previous webinar, there are some various methods of online instruction that are worth considering. You can do online instruction where you have whole classes of kids, where you have small groups of children, or where you're working one-on-one. And just as in a regular classroom, certain activities lend themselves better to whole class versus small group versus one-on-one. And that's an important consideration. A lot of the things that we're going to share with you, it would be difficult to imagine them being effectively implemented in a whole class, with the whole class virtually. Now, in a face-to-face setting, absolutely, they could be, a lot of them could be used whole class. But a lot of the instructional materials, to be effective, we believe that you're going to need to be working in small groups or even one-on-one. And that might take some real coordination. And so just wanted to set you up to understand that not everything can be applied in a whole class setting. You wouldn't expect that in your physical classroom. Don't expect that in your virtual classroom either. And some things that might be okay in a whole class setting, face-to-face, may not work in a whole class setting virtually. Another thing to think about is the various ways of approaching online instruction. There's synchronous instruction, where just like what we're doing right now, you're hearing me in real time, unless you're listening later on a recording, in which it would be considered asynchronous. But right now, you all are hearing me in real time, and there is an opportunity for us to interact live. You have a Q&A box or a comment section to let me know what you're thinking. Asynchronous instruction doesn't allow for real-time interaction, and it can be delivered through a learning management system like Canvas or Schoology or Moodle, or with other kinds of tools like posting videos on YouTube, for example. But synchronous instruction usually requires some sort of a video conferencing tool like Zoom, like we're using tonight. The other things that you need to be thinking about as you're setting up your virtual instruction is what kind of materials do you need? What physical materials do you need? If you're working from home to do this, having some of your classroom materials that you might otherwise use is really important. And we'll show you how some of these can be used to do online instruction, that you might still want to be able to write something on the whiteboard or to demonstrate using magnetic letters with your students. So consider what kinds of things that you might need to have at home from your classroom. Just to give you a little bit of a snapshot of what instruction might look like from the child's point of view. This is a student getting one-on-one tutoring from the teacher that you just saw. And this is just a way for you to be thinking about what do your students need to do to set up for your instruction to be effective. This is with a group of students where they're all sharing what they wrote. So the teacher guided them in spelling a word, and they're sharing what they spelled. So there's a lot of ways that you can do face-to-face instruction that don't require any of the tools that we're providing, but you're somewhat limited. So we're going to be providing you tools that can allow you to do some other things as well. Here's another image of a little girl, kindergartner, with her little sister joining in for her one-on-one instruction. So what we're going through tonight is the Virtual Teaching Resource Hub. There is a QR code for you to snap with your phone if you would like to visit it. I will say that during our first webinar, we kind of broke the internet. And so everybody went and joined the Virtual Teaching Hub at the same time. If you've already been there, you probably want to wait and go there again later. But if you haven't, you might want to pull up the Virtual Hub and explore some of the things as we're telling you about where they are. So we're going to take you on an actual tour of the hub, or actually a tour through screenshots of it where we don't have to depend on the internet allowing us on while you all are visiting all at the same time. So this demonstrates what is on the left is the top part of the page when you get there. And you'll see just a little welcome and an introductory video that you can watch. And then if you scroll down, you'll see what's on the right. And we have 4 different main sections to the hub. The lesson structure section tells you how to create lessons, how to use the lesson templates, and kind of gives you some guidance in creating lessons. The instructional activities section is where the actual activities are. The management and attention section gives you a lot of tips for doing classroom management online, which is a very different act than doing classroom management in a face-to-face classroom, obviously. When you've got a group of children and one of them gets up and walks away, there's not a whole lot you can always do about it. And so there are some tips for managing attention and behavior there, including some really great videos. And then the tech tools section gives you a little bit of an overview of some of the tools that can be useful. So we're going to take you through each of these. We're going to kind of go out of order, leaving the instructional activities section for last. That's kind of where all the fun is, but I'm going to let my co-presenter, Valentina Contess, take you through the other sections. Valentina is a doctoral student at the University of Florida and a graduate assistant with UFLI, with the Institute. And she's also one of the really probably the chief developer of the materials that are here. A lot of the materials that are found on the Hub are things that she either created or came up with the idea for. We have an amazing team of developers who have contributed, but the work that she's done and put into this is pretty phenomenal. So I'm going to turn it over to Valentina now, and she's going to start with showing you the section on the tech tools and tips. Valentina, take it away.
Thank you, Dr. Lane. Good evening, everyone. I'm so excited to be here tonight to begin our tour of the Virtual Teaching Resource Hub. As Dr. Lane mentioned, we spent a lot of time in the last few months developing this and making it something that we are really proud of sharing. So in this first tab, in the Tech Tools and Tips section, first we wanted to mention that, as was discussed in our first webinar of the series, all of our materials can be adapted to be used with different video conferencing platforms or with different presentation programs. But the majority of the videos you'll see, video examples, and the materials that are downloadable are using Zoom and PowerPoint. On that tab, you will see that there's two main sections again for video conferencing platforms and information about using the slides, which are made in PowerPoint. The two things in the corner are helpful if you either don't have the font that we use, which is Century Gothic, or if you need to convert your PowerPoint slides into Google Slides. We are going to talk a lot more about this at our upcoming webinar next week, which is Tech Tools for Online Instruction. So we hope you join us for that. The next section is the Managing Attention and Behavior section. Like Dr. Lane mentioned, we have learned a lot about how it's really important to consider classroom management in a virtual teaching environment. So the first thing you'll notice at the top of this section is just some overall key strategies that we have found extremely helpful when providing virtual instruction, either ourselves or supporting other teachers providing reading instruction online. Below that, you will see that there is an actual video that we like to call the Power of Persistence that helps you kind of have an idea of how it's different to provide instruction when students are in their home learning environment, but how it's still really possible to provide high quality instruction that meets the students' academic needs and social emotional needs as well. And so here is just a screenshot of that video, and you see that I'm screen sharing the video with a few of the team members from the UFLI team, and I'm going back and forth playing clips and then discussing different strategies that I've used in order to help with engaging the student in the instruction. The next video is a video of me teaching kindergarten students, a small group of students, ways to respond during virtual instruction. So it's important to think of ways that we can have a lot of students have a lot of opportunities to respond. And so when you click that video, one of the things you'll see in the video is me teaching the students just different ways that throughout the lesson, they can respond. So here in the screenshot, you see that I'm teaching them that at the count of 3, 1, 2, 3, they're going to provide a response. And I'm using a crayon and color and using a non-academic sort of tool in order to practice this. Another really fun feature we have on this section is the virtual stickers. So if you click that link there, it will take you to a PowerPoint that includes a lot of free clip art that we've gathered. It's in themes, like there's space theme, little hearts, glitter stars, and these stickers will be really useful once again for helping engage your students in different ways. So here in the next slide, you see how instead of using check marks for a visual checklist that shows the different instructional activities, with one of the small groups, I've used little glitter stickers because it was a small group of all girls and they really loved those. And we will talk a lot more about these visual checklists and using behavioral expectations at our next webinar. Our upcoming webinar. And that webinar will also talk a lot about ways to engage families and collaborate with families with virtual instruction, as well as how to actually organize materials for virtual learning and teaching. Then the last section that I'll show you is the lesson structure section of the hub. Here you'll see that at the top, we have provided, in case you don't have a scope and sequence for your curriculum or provided by your district. If you don't have that, we have a UFLI version of that that's divided into different groups, so you could adapt that based on the grade level that you teach. You also notice at the bottom, there's videos that can be used as helpful ways to learn more about virtual teaching. But even though we've done our best to try and gather these videos and pictures, we really want to see what you're up to as users of the hub. And so this is just an example that we found based on a wonderful teacher sharing with us through Twitter by using the hashtag, that she's using it with her students. And what you'll notice is that she has hid the student's name and picture so that she's able to share it. So please share as you're starting your journey with virtual teaching. We'd love to see how the resources have been helpful to you. And so now to show you a little bit about what the videos are of. The first video is actually a tutorial of Dr. Lane talking through how to use the PowerPoint templates. Again, we will talk a lot more about this in our upcoming webinars. The second video that you'll see there is a sample lesson where I am going back and forth with Dr. Lane discussing parts of the lesson as I'm pretending she's a first grade student. So another really helpful way to orient yourself on what this virtual teaching is all about. And then the last two videos highlighted there is a kindergarten small group lesson and then a first grade small group lesson. Below the videos are all our grade levels. So you'll see that our materials are meant for kindergarten through 5th grade. And there's two main strands, kindergarten through 2nd and then 3rd through 5th. And we are going to really spend a lot of time talking specifically about each of those grade level strands at the end of our series. So we hope you join us for that. We did want to show you an example of what one of these sections looks like. So we're going to look at first grade. You'll notice that there are three main documents listed there: a lesson template, sample activity sequence, and then an actual sample lesson. So we're just going to quickly look through what each of those looks like. The first one is the template for actually planning a lesson. So we've intended for this to be a starting point for you as you begin to think of which activities you would choose with your groups of students. The second one is a sample activity sequence that list out different components of reading and how they could be taught across 5 days. And then we've listed any possible activity we think that you could use within that grade level at the bottom. And then what we've done is we've taken one of the days. So in this example, you see day 1 highlighted. We've taken that day and made an actual PowerPoint sample lesson for you. So this is to give you an idea of how all of your instructional activities could be covered within that PowerPoint presentation. And we've included the checklist idea with the behavioral expectations throughout the slides as a way to help with transitions, reinforcing behavior, and keeping students on task, knowing what's coming next. In order to make your own templates, so that was the one we provide, the idea is that you would take our lesson template for the grade level that you teach, choose the activities that you want to do, and then go to those instructional activity PowerPoints that are on the hub to then insert the slides that you need. So we hope that you have all the things that you need in order to create lessons that really meet your students' needs. And now I get to give it back over to Dr. Lane, who's going to show you all of the wonderful things, well, we hope you think they're wonderful, that we've created for you to use for your actual instruction. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Valentina. And I am excited to show you the instructional activities, and I think they're wonderful. I hope you do as well. There are activities for a lot of different areas, and so I will take you into that section. If you click on that tab for the instructional activities, you will first give a little bit of get a little sense of what all is there. And so again, there's a scope and sequence linked. And there's a place where you can click for a glossary of terms. We use a lot of lingo that may or may not be familiar to you in your teaching of reading. And so if you run across any terms that are not familiar to you, you can click on the glossary and you'll find the definition of that. I hope all of the terms that you might need. If you look at the section below that, you can click on any of these, and any of the different areas you will click on, you'll get a little explanation, and then you'll get links. And most of the links, not all of them, but most of the links, if you click on a link, you will be downloading a PowerPoint slide, a slideshow. So my own recommendation for this is go ahead and say okay and download all of the PowerPoints that are on there that apply to your grade level, and use maybe the same organizational structure or whatever organization you like to put those PowerPoints together so that they're easy for you to find and reference, and then you don't have to come back to the hub each time to look for something. You'll have them all on your computer. But each of these, we are adding to them to our collection frequently. So I do encourage you to come back and check from time to time to see what new activities we've included. When you open one of the PowerPoints, you will see on every one of the PowerPoints, I believe we have some sort of instruction for the teacher, describing and explaining the activity, how it's supposed to work. Some of them are very short, some of them are a little bit longer, some of them are much longer and may include several different slides of instruction. And you don't have to include the instruction slides in your lesson, obviously, unless you want to refer back to it before you start teaching. But these are not intended for your students to be seeing. That's for you to look at ahead of the time as you're doing your planning. So when you look at the sections here, you have these 6 sections. The first is Phonemic Awareness, which, if you're not familiar with that, it's the ability to manipulate spoken language sounds. And this is a really critical part of early language development, and it contributes to decoding skills. So if you click on that button, it'll take you to this page. The part on the left is the top part of the page, and the part on the right is the bottom part of the page. And so you can see there are 4 different games for phonemic awareness development: the sorting game, Elkonin boxes, phoneme counting bead strings, and then a say it, move it practice. And so I'm going to show you just a couple of these and show you how these PowerPoint slides are intended to work. So this one is the sorting game. And one of the things that you'll notice is that most of our activities are actually designed to not be used in presenter mode like I'm in now, but in editing mode. So the sorting game is one of those. In addition to the little bucket slides, you have sets of clip art pictures that represent either words with 2, 3, and 4 phonemes or words with 2, 3, and 4 syllables. So this one would be our phonemes collection, and this one is our syllables collection. So what I'll do is go out of presenter mode and I get into editing mode. And so it looks a little bit different, but we found that this is actually a lot easier for instruction to happen in editing mode. When you're doing instruction in editing mode, a few things you'll want to do. One is to shrink this down a little bit. So these are visible for you, you know what's coming up, but they're not, it's not big enough for the students to really be distracted by it or to be looking at it while you're teaching. So you can click on one of these. So let's do phonemes. And I want to get students to sort whether the words have 2, 3, or 4 phonemes. And I'll probably want to open up my notes a little bit more so I can know what these represent. A lot of our slides have notes down here in the notes section. Those are all geared for the teacher to be able to use. So I can just select some of these. I'm just going to select several different pictures, and I'm going to copy them, and then I'm going to come down to my buckets here, and I'm going to paste them. And then I will arrange them on the slide so that they're all up here above the buckets. Okay, this lesson is now ready to go. This activity is ready to do with my kids. So I'll take this slide and put it into the lesson template then. And with my students, I will select a picture and say, okay, this is a duck. Let's count out the sounds in duck. D, k. How many sounds? 3 sounds. Okay, let's put the duck in the 3 bucket. And then we do that with each one of these. Bow, b, o. That's only 2 sounds, and so forth. And we go ahead and sort all of these according to how many sounds. And that requires phonemic segmentation and some real attention to the sounds in language. So it's really helping kids develop their phonemic awareness. Another phonemic awareness activity we have is Alconin boxes. And this one can be done either in editing mode like this or in presenter mode. So if I'm doing it in editing mode, what I would do first, you're saying, Alconin boxes, I see no boxes there, right? Well, we've covered them up because one of the things that we found in our research using Alconin boxes is that really getting kids to figure out how many boxes before they see the boxes is important. So they're really counting phonemes. And so they're having to do the segmentation that we just did in the sorting game. So we'll say, how many sounds do we hear in fish? Sh. 3 sounds. Let's see if we're right. And this box right here is just a shape. It's a PowerPoint shape that I've inserted, and I can move it out of the way, or I can just select it and hit delete. And once I've done that, then I can say, let's see, did we have the right number of boxes? Yes, we have 3. And so they've had to figure it out before I tell them that there were 3. That just requires a different level of thinking on the student's part. And then we take these little discs and we move them into the boxes to count the sounds or to represent the sounds. Sh. So I can do that same activity in presenter mode. So let's go to the next slide where I've got it set up with animations. This requires more work to get it set up, ready to go, but it can be a powerful way to do it too, and then you're not going in and out as much. So for using this in presenter mode, I would do the same thing, count the sounds, and then I've set the animation so the box will move it wipes away when I click. And then I can click again, and I've animated it so that these move into the boxes as we're saying the sounds. So it's a little bit more setup. It's not as flexible. So if the students struggle, I can't do it again as easily, but it's another way of doing it. So it doesn't always have to be in editing mode. This is a quick little clip that we have of a teacher working with a group of kindergartners using this activity.
What's this, everybody?
Pig.
A pig. Get your fist up. We're going to count the sounds in the word pig. We're going to say it really slowly, one sound at a time. Ready? 1, 2, 3, go. Pig. Good. Let's try it again. Ready? Pig. Let's count the sounds. 1, 2, 3, go. Pig. How many sounds in pig?
3.
3. Let's check. Were we right? All right, this time we're going to say the sounds while I move the circles. Okay, what's the first sound in pig? Next sound? Can you scratch up your nose like me? Good. What's the last one in pig? Very good. Let's say the sounds in pig one more time while I move them out. Ready? Very good. 3 sounds in pig. Let's do another one.
All right, so you get the idea. They can do several of these, and these kids are developing their phonemic awareness. So the next section of our instructional activities tab is the phoneme grapheme correspondences. And as you probably know, one of the early things that kids learn to do is associate our sounds in language, the phonemes, with the graphemes, the letters or the letter combinations. So this early skill is really also critical to learning to decode. So if you click on this tab, you'll see these different categories of phoneme grapheme correspondences, and you'll also see a video. And on the video, this is our blendable sounds video. And this is, you get to see yours truly demonstrating how to pronounce different sounds. This is just the most common sound for each letter of the alphabet. And then when you go into these, you can look at the alphabet section, and there is a visual drill with the alphabet. There's also activities to do ABC order. So taking a look at the visual drill, all this is letters that the kids have learned, that you've already introduced, you've already practiced, and now we want them to become automatic. We're really firming up their knowledge and developing automaticity. So we just put together letters, and the kids will say the letter name and the sound or sounds if they've learned more than one sound for a letter. So they can say A is A, M is M, T is T. So they're just connecting the letters and sounds. For the ABC order section, this is something that we will do in editing mode. So we'll in the slideshow and come over here. And the idea here is we have all the letters of the alphabet, and I want to put them in alphabetical order. So kids can just move these letters, find each letter, and put them in order. Another activity for alphabetical order is alphabetizing words. So figuring out which of these will come first. And then these are just text boxes that function as word cards, and they move these over here as they figure out which one comes first, which one comes next. Is that right? I think so. Okay, but you get the idea. So we also have here a variety of other ones. I'll just show you one more of the phoneme grapheme correspondences, and that's in our vowel team section. We have a lot of these that are we're about to post, so they'll be up there hopefully before your schools go back to in session, but within the next week or two. And in this section, it gives you the directions, as I mentioned earlier. There's a slide for the teacher. And then these are the slides that the students would see. So they would see that the grapheme AI, and you would say that AI has the A sound. And we always help kids understand where the grapheme that they're learning comes in a word. And so the first one of each of these is the most common placement. So we'll say that AI usually comes in the middle of a word, like in rain or bait. AI can also come at the beginning of a word, like aim or aid, but usually you'll see it in the middle. You won't see AI at the end of many words. So that kind of explanation just to orient students to where they're likely to see a particular grapheme. And then we have some practice words, and these are again covered up with the squares, and you can use these in a couple of ways. You can either program them for animation up front, or you can use them to cover up one letter at a time and let them decode the word like that. You can just say next word is and delete the square all at once. So a lot of different ways you can actually use that. In addition to the Grapheme introductions like this, we also have visual drills set up for not just individual letters, but for things like art control vowels or vowel teams or digraphs and so forth. So these are any letter sound correspondence that they've learned. You can use these for automaticity building. The next section, this is my favorite section in the whole hub, is the decoding and encoding section. When you click on here, you'll see several sections. The two most favorite ones are the word work and big word sections. So let's take a look at word work. So this is where you see a whole lot of activities listed. And there's also some sample videos. So we're trying to put sample videos and tutorial videos throughout, really to guide you in using these materials. One of the activities is a blending board. And the way that you use this is set up so that there is what you can't see this because this one doesn't have a border. Here is another white square, just a shape. And these letters are movable. And so you can pull whatever letters you want to pile up onto your blending board. And you just slide these down and the letters disappear underneath the white square. So you can tell your kids that that's magic. You can do all of this and move, oops, I didn't have another letter under there, but you can move all of these to represent different words. I can go from gap to lap, lap to lip, lip to lid, and so forth. Another activity to use in editing mode. This looks a lot like the alphabetical order one, except they're already in order. These are just our manipulative letters. So if you use magnetic letters in your classroom, then this is a really powerful way to replicate some of those same activities virtually. And depending on what video conferencing platform, you may be able to give your student remote control over the screen and let them move the letters. You may or may not choose to do that for a lot of reasons, and we'll be talking about that both in the tech tools section of the webinar series and in the management tools. There's both technical considerations and management considerations of whether you want to hand over remote control. But to do this activity, you're just going to move the letters. And as you notice, when you're moving these letters, it leaves behind a little gray background. And that's so that if your student is doing the remote control of these letters, you can help them find the right place to put the letters back more easily. But for this activity, you're simply spelling words and then saying things to help them encode and decode and make changes to the word. So what would I need to do to change from cat to sat? And the student could either tell you and you move it, or again, they could move it themselves. To change cat to sat, I think I'm going to need to move the C down and replace it with an S. And then I could also say, what if I changed the A in sat to an I? What word would I have now? And so the first thing is asking them to encode the word. This time I'm asking them to decode. I changed it, I spelled it, now I'm saying what word do we have? Both of those kinds of practice are really important, and the manipulative letter activity gives you an opportunity to do that. Another thing that we do are a lot of other kinds of word sorts. I showed you the bucket word sorts. This is a different word sort mat. On here, we have lots of different sets of word cards for a lot of different phonograms. So you can go into the phonogram set and find a whole slide full of AB cards and another whole slide full of AD cards. And you can have kids determine what word is it. And you have them read a word. We usually use this as the place to put the card. Have them read the word, add, dad. That's an add word, and they can move it over into that category. And then they'll pick another card, put it in the middle, and decide ab, cab, it goes over here. And so on until they've sorted them all. You can do it this way with using the boxes that are provided. You can also use some of the clip art that's provided. And so instead of having the letters there where they're just having to match, for this, they're having to sound out this word and then sound out this word to see what it matches best. What does it rhyme with, for example? So does cub, does that rhyme with tub or bug? And they figure out, that rhymes with tub, and move it over. Some of our really exciting things that we've done, we have another tool called our word work mat. So I'm going to show you how this one works, but these are tools that we have links to, and you can go from here to the, from the Virtual Teaching Hub, there's a link to this activity. And this is just a little video of Valentina doing the word work mat activity with one of her students. So.
Up here, say the sounds, follow my arrow.
Rob.
Close, what letter is this?
I'm at Rob.
Good reading. Now I'm gonna cover up this letter. Let's read this new word.
Drop.
Good. Watch this. Now I'm going to cover the O. Read this new word.
Drip.
Good. Check this out. Now I'm adding an S at the end. What does it say now?
Drips.
Drips. Good reading. Now I'm going to take away all these letters up front. What does it say now?
Rips.
What if I take the S away?
You put
What word do I have now?
Rip.
Great reading. So that's how the basic word work mat goes. This is for beginners. So this little girl's a kindergartner. And this is the more advanced word work mat. So the first one is set up for students who just need the alphabet, if they've only learned individual letter sounds. This one is set up for students who have learned more complex letters and letter combinations, so digraphs and other combinations. Here's an example of a small group working with the more advanced word work mat.
Now I'm going to add a letter at the end. Let's read the word all together, saying the sounds. Seed. Seed. Aaliyah, what's the word?
Seed.
Seed. Good job. Now I'm going to cover up the D and add an N. Let's say the sounds all together. Theme. Good reading. Let's see. Ivy, what's the word?
Seam.
Theme. Good job.
So you get the idea. So we have, this is another clip of the intermediate word work mat. And here, Valentina gives remote control over to the student. So let's take a look at how that operates.
All right. I'm going to give you control. You should see the message. Do you see the message?
Yeah, it's just hard because my cat.
I know. It's okay. You're doing your best. Did you accept control?
Yeah.
All right, don't touch anything yet. I'll make your first word. Let go of the mouse. Good listening. All right, I'm gonna start us off with this word. What's this word? Read the word.
I could roll back. Oh, no, you didn't.
No. All right, you read the word.
Act. Fat.
Good. How do you make fat into fit?
Eat.
Good job. What word did you make?
Fit.
Fit. Good. Okay, let go of the mouse. I'm gonna make the change now.
So you can tell she really enjoys controlling that. And so giving kids an opportunity to do that can really increase engagement. But you saw even at the very beginning, there was a little bit of, she was trying to do too much too fast. And so just getting that to work right, that's the management part of it too. We're really excited that coming very soon, we believe possibly within the next week or so, we will have available to you our newest app, which is a virtual blending board. And so this gives you an idea of what the blending board would look like if all of the letters were chosen, but you would never have all of the letters chosen. What you would do is click on these little lines up here, and that takes you to a screen where you get to pick which letters or letter combinations that you are going to use. How this works is you have letters and letter combinations that go at the beginning or the initial position in a word, ones that go in the middle or medial position, and ones that go in the final position. You also have a silent E and an S to make things plural, but the idea here is that these combinations of letters can fit in these positions. So for example, you may see letter blends here. We don't usually teach a blend as a thing, as a blend is something separate. It's just two letters that we are blending within a word. But together they form the onset of this word. So I could change from read to plead and still have a word. So this is what the planning page of this looks like. So this is where you would enter as the teacher and select, you can select all or none of a whole category. And if you select the none button, then you can go and select individual tiles. And then you click the check up here once you've selected what you want, and that takes you to your personalized blending board for that day. And so we'll watch a little clip of Valentina and Olive Sue working on the blending board.
So do you see this word that I just made up top?
Yeah.
All right, say the sounds. Look at my arrow.
I'm at dot. Dot.
Good. D says d, dot. What is this word? Keep saying the sounds. Keep looking. You're doing great.
Lot.
Good. Check it out. Now we're putting CK at the end. What's this word now?
Lock.
Awesome reading, Olive Sue. Now we're changing the beginning. Read it now.
Clock.
Good. Changing the middle. Click. Excellent. Now we're going to take away.
So you get the idea. And if you notice over here, it's recording the last several words that she's created over on the right. So you can kind of go back and see which words you've made. But you could go on and on. You also may notice that some of the letters are grayed out. That means that you couldn't use those to make a real word. You can still click on them if you wanted to make a nonsense word, but she just made click, and to change click, you couldn't have yick or zick as real words. And so that is a feature, it's built in. Now, not just because it's a real word doesn't mean it's going to be a familiar word, so you need to be careful about that. So within the decoding and encoding section, we also have a section on big words. And in this section, we're teaching kids about syllables and about morphemes. So there are some resources that you can, there's some good links to find out more about syllables and morphemes. And there's also a list of common morphemes, some of the most frequent morphemes and their meanings. One of the things we have for the syllable section is an introduction to syllable types. And this actually takes you through what do you need to know about syllables and some of the terminology that you need to know to talk about syllables. What is a vowel? What's a consonant? The idea that you can feel a voice when your vibration for your voice when you're saying a vowel, and with some consonants, some are voice, some are not voice. So these are all important concepts when you're teaching about syllables and syllable types. You need to know what a syllable is as well, how to count the number of syllables in a word, and then the different syllable types. And so the main two that we focus on is open and closed syllables. And these are the patterns that kids have probably not really thought of as a particular pattern. And the way that we focus on this is just showing kids how when you have a word that's open, which means there's not a consonant to close after the vowel, then we say it with the long vowel sound. When we close it, then it changes it to a short vowel sound. And so there's some examples of that to demonstrate the concept of open and closed syllables. This one happens to be kids' favorite. They like to make she, shed. And then we have lots of words for kids to practice reading that have the different syllable types. Then we have other syllable types like final stable syllables. That's the other one that kids typically need to learn. Then we also have the other syllable types that kids usually learn these initially as single syllable word patterns. So our control, vowel consonant E, and vowel team. And generally, if kids learn to read those well with little words, they can read them pretty well in big words as well and don't require more instruction. But if they do, you can teach them about those syllable types as well. And there's some information here in the hub for you to do that. Lots of practice, lots of different words, and then their word list that they can practice with using all of the syllable types. In addition to syllable activities, we have morpheme activities where these are morpheme matrices where you're combining prefixes, roots, and suffixes. We have some simpler ones and some more complex ones. I think we're running out of time, so I'm not going to show you this video clip, but this one is on the Virtual Teaching Hub too as an example.
On here.
And in addition to the word work activities and the big words, we have word cards and word list for a lot of different kinds of combinations. And what these look like, these are word cards. And so these are just simply text boxes with a border that you can use for the different games, like the word sorts or different activities. And these are just lists of words if you're practicing with a particular grapheme that you've learned. So the same kinds of word sorts that we were talking about. Within our irregular and high frequency words, just want to really quickly show you a little bit of our irregular word activities. We have heart words, and we have slides and heart word cards that you can download. These I'll typically do in editing mode, which I will first go through how to sound out a word with a child. I'll say this word is said. Let's sound it out. Ed. Which part of this wasn't spelled the way we might expect it to be. And we figure out that the S and the D both have the sound that we would expect. So they have sound boxes underneath. The AI says that's unusual. And so we have to learn that part by heart. And so heart words are a really good way to teach irregular words, really emphasizing the point that most of an irregular word tends to be decodable, and we don't have to memorize the whole word. We can just memorize that one part that's unusual. So there are a variety of heart words in that list, and so you have slides for those and cards that you can download. We also have some just high frequency, your Dolch and Fry lists made into cards for building automaticity with those as well. But these are all decodable words that you would have them sound out. This is just when you get to the point of them reading them quickly. For connected text, we don't include our own text. but we have links to various sources of text that is currently free. I don't know how long all of these will still be free for you, but there's some great sources for decodable text. And the last thing we have is in writing. We have some writing paper and some practice for letter formation. This is an area that we hope to keep adding to the writing section. In addition to these materials, there's some printables. The heartwork cards I mentioned are available now, but we have a lot of other printables that are coming soon. These are not on the hub yet, but they will be soon. We also have a template that you can download for the WordWork mat. It has all the parts that you would need. You can print it out and make your own classroom-based WordWork mat that you can use in your classroom. There are other materials for you to download just for your own professional development, some readings. And of course, we have our upcoming webinars. The next one is going to be on tech tools. That's going to be our third in the series, and that will dig a little bit deeper into how to make some of these things happen. So if you're wondering, how did you animate that way, or how did you do this? That's what you need to come for the tech tools webinar to learn. So in kind of wrapping up, I want to also just let you know that the Institute has other resources as well. In addition to the virtual teaching hub, we have a dyslexia resource hub and a parent resource hub with a lot more information. We encourage you to visit our website. So there's another QR code for you to snap. And of course, the virtual teaching hub, if you haven't gone there yet, please do visit that one. And if you have not already liked us on Facebook, please visit our Facebook page and click like and follow us. This is where we will continue to announce most of the new things that we're putting up on the hub. And we have also created a Facebook group for teachers to share ideas with each other about how to best use the virtual resource, the hub. We also have a Twitter account. We encourage you to follow us on Twitter. And please to consider, we have been doing all of this and providing all of this to teachers for free, and we would love to continue making all this free to teachers. We think it needs to be free, but it isn't free to produce. So if you haven't already considered this, please consider giving to the University of Florida Literacy Institute and supporting this effort. And if you are interested in receiving verification of your attendance in this webinar, this is the link to this. We apologize, our last night's link had a capital I that looked a lot like the L, so I chose a different font for the link to the survey. So you need to complete a survey at this link if you'd like to receive verification. We're going to send out the verification at the end of the webinar series, so don't expect it tonight or tomorrow. It's not going to come until the end of the webinar series, so the week of August 24th. But this QR code or this link will take you to that survey. Thank you all very much for joining us for this webinar. We hope you enjoyed it, and we hope you will make use of the Virtual Teaching Resource Hub.
Hi, Dr. Lane. Thank you so much. That was so exciting. We had 1,000 people on Zoom, and we had, the last I checked, 2,000 people on Facebook. So before we closed up, I wanted to at least throw 2 questions at you since we're over time. Sure. Awesome, thank you. Many of the teachers were asking about what grade levels these activities were geared for, in addition to how you're able to support ELL students with these resources. I know this could be a whole webinar, but could you touch on that, please?
Sure. Let me actually go back to the survey. I clicked past it by accident. So yeah, the grade level thing that we have, as I showed you, as Valentina showed you actually in the lesson structure section of the hub, we have things organized by grade level, K through 5. And so it is all geared toward elementary, but we feel like a lot of it for older students who may be struggling readers is still very appropriate. So we've actually used some of it with high school kids who were dyslexic, for example. And so having, they have a wide range of utility, but we've tried to organize things in such a way that if you're a fourth grade teacher, you can click on the fourth grade button and see which things would be considered sort of most appropriate for students at that grade level. And again, we're adding things all the time. You asked another that question about English learners. So, so most of this, as I mentioned, was focused primarily on the decoding side of the simple view of reading, and those things are appropriate for any student who's learning to read. For the linguistic comprehension, some of the things like the morpheme matrices and the morpheme trees are particularly useful for teaching about language, and those can be useful for any student, and in particular for students who are learning English. But one of the things that is really important to know is that just because a student is not a native speaker, if they're struggling in reading, we don't need to wait for them to become a proficient speaker of English before we intervene with their decoding and phonemic awareness skills. Working on phonemic awareness and learning how to decode and encode words in English can really help kids access the English language, even if they don't have their oral language proficiency to the point where you might want it to be. So it can really work with any kids.
Awesome, thank you for that. And the last question that came up a lot, which I know why, because as a teacher that was amazing to me, they love the lesson videos. They wanted to know, is there going to be more examples of different people teaching groups virtually?
Absolutely. It's the hardest thing to acquire, especially since we started developing this, the whole virtual teaching hub after school shut down and close to the beginning of summer. So we didn't get a whole lot of new videos over the summer, but as school gets gearing back up, we do have a number of teachers who have worked with us in the past who have volunteered to video record some of their videos that we can share. If anybody is interested in sharing videos with us, we would love to see them. We will need to get releases from the parents of the children who are depicted in the videos. But we have a method of doing that. So if you have a really good video that you'd like to share with us, you can let us know about it. Just contact us through our email, which is just ufli@coe.ufl.edu, and let us know that you have something. What we would be sharing are videos that are using the materials from the hub, though. And of course, we're going to vet them to make sure that they're good examples of what we're looking for. But yeah, we're looking to build our repertoire of videos. And as Valentina mentioned, we would love images of what you're doing too. It doesn't have to be video, just in different ways you're applying some of these things. So if you do tweet or post on Facebook, use the UFLI, the hashtag UFLI to help us find those sources, and so that we can include those. We're going to build a gallery and share those images with everyone too.
Oh, I love that. And then the last thing I think we've talked about is that for the questions that haven't been answered, we'll keep the conversation on Facebook, or even probably put a Q&A section inside of the hub, correct?
Absolutely. And we do encourage you, if you have questions or if you're confused about any of this, first, go back and watch these webinars on video. Second, come to the rest of them, because a lot of it will be explained as we get into the technology and the management sections, and then the two webinars that are focused on K through 2 or 3 through 5. So those will go a lot more in depth. If you still don't have your questions answered, what I encourage you to do is to frequent the Facebook support group that I shared with you, that Virtual Teaching Resource Hub support that you can find on Facebook.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Dr. Lane and Valentina. Again, thank you so much. This was so much fun.
And thank you everybody for coming and for joining us tonight. We really appreciate it.